Okay, so today we're going to really dive deep into something that is super important for pretty much anyone out there who's ever had to navigate the job market.
Yeah.
And that is putting together a resume that really works.
Right.
A resume that really gets you where you want to go.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter if you're just starting out fresh out of school, or if you're a seasoned pro who's maybe thinking about switching careers, or if you're someone who's coming back to the workforce after some time away.
Mm-hmm.
Your resume, it's like your first impression. It's it's like your calling card.
Your ambassador, yeah.
Exactly.
It's going out there and doing the work for you before you even get in the room.
It really is.
And it's really interesting to think about how this whole idea of a resume has really expanded, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not just talking about that, that traditional piece of paper anymore.
Right.
You've got digital resumes. Now you've got your LinkedIn profile, which is like a living, breathing resume in a way. And for some people, depending on their field, even online portfolios are becoming absolutely essential.
Yeah, you've got to have those visuals.
Yes,
So our mission today in this deep dive is to really go beyond just the basics.
Yeah.
We want to extract the essential elements of what makes a resume really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of document that actually gets you those interview invitations.
Right.
So let's just start right at the beginning. What is a resume?
Yeah.
What is a resume at its core, and why should our listeners really be paying attention to getting this right?
Yeah. So at its core, you can really think about your resume as a marketing document.
Okay.
It's your opportunity to showcase your skills, your experiences, your qualifications, the things that make you a strong candidate for a particular job.
And what's interesting is that a lot of times people think that the goal of a resume is to get the job.
Right.
But I think it's important to make the distinction that that's not necessarily the immediate goal.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So what is the real target?
The primary objective of your resume is to generate enough interest from a potential employer to get you an interview.
Yeah.
That's the goal. It's not to get the job offer right away. It's to say, hey, I'm interesting enough. I've got the qualifications. You should talk to me.
It's that foot in the door.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And increasingly, a lot of that initial signaling is happening online now too, right?
Absolutely.
So it's not just about the document that you attach to an email anymore.
Right.
Your digital footprint, particularly your LinkedIn profile, and for some professions, a curated online portfolio, those things all contribute to that first impression that you're making.
Yeah, it's almost like the resume is just one piece of the puzzle now.
It's part of a larger picture.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, let's talk about the do's of resume writing.
Yeah.
What are some of the must-haves?
The non-negotiables.
Yeah, the non-negotiables that our listeners need to really embrace when they're putting together their resumes.
So I would say right off the bat, you absolutely have to tailor your resume for each individual job that you apply for.
Yeah.
This idea of a generic resume that you just send out to everyone,
Oh, yeah.
that's just not going to cut it anymore.
No. That's a recipe for getting lost in the pile.
Exactly.
And what's fascinating about this is how much you can glean from a job description,
Mm-hmm.
Employers are using specific language. They're highlighting their priorities.
Right.
And if you can mirror that language in your resume and emphasize the experiences that are relevant to what they're looking for, you're showing them that you really get it.
Yeah.
You're not just blindly sending out applications.
You've actually read their description. You've thought about it.
Yeah.
And you're showing them why you're the right fit.
Exactly.
And another thing that I think is really important is using strong action verbs.
Oh, yeah.
When you're describing your responsibilities and your accomplishments,
Absolutely.
instead of using that kind of passive language,
Yeah.
Really choose those dynamic verbs that show that you were proactive.
Right.
Things like managed, developed, led.
Yeah, those words they have so much more energy.
You do.
And they make your contributions sound more significant.
Right. It's not just, I was responsible for this.
Right.
It's, I led this. I developed this.
Exactly.
I managed this team.
It shows that you took initiative. You were a leader.
Yeah.
You made things happen.
Exactly. And it's not just about using the right words. It's also about quantifying your achievements.
Yeah.
I think this is so crucial.
It is, because it provides evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just saying, I improved customer service,
Right.
you say, I implemented a new customer feedback system
Right.
that resulted in a 20% increase in positive satisfaction ratings.
And you can back that up with numbers.
Exactly. And that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it shows them the impact.
It shows the impact. It shows that you're not just talking the talk.
Right.
You're walking the walk.
And it also shows that you're thinking about things from a, data-driven perspective.
Absolutely.
Which is so important in today's world.
It is.
And then, of course, there's conciseness,
Yeah.
We have to be respectful of a recruiter's time.
Absolutely.
And those automated systems,
Right.
they're not going to want to wade through pages and pages.
No, they're looking for keywords.
So what's a good rule of thumb for length?
So I would say for people who are early in their careers, maybe just starting out, aim for a single page.
Okay.
One really well-crafted, packed page that highlights your most relevant skills and experiences.
Okay.
Now, if you've got more experience, you've got a longer track record of accomplishments, then 2 pages is usually acceptable.
Okay.
But the key here is to be ruthless.
Right.
Every single piece of information on your resume should be there for a reason.
Should be supporting your candidacy for that specific job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finally, and this might seem obvious, but I can't emphasize this enough.
Yeah.
Proofread.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Any errors in grammar or spelling, they can really create a negative first impression.
It makes you a little careless.
Exactly. It suggests that you don't pay attention to detail.
And if you're applying for a job that requires attention to detail, that's a big red flag.
Yeah, it's a big problem. So have a fresh pair of eyes, look at your resume before you send it off.
Get someone else to look at it because you've been staring at it for so long.
Exactly. You miss things. Your brain just skips over them.
Yeah. So we've talked about the do's. Let's talk about the don'ts.
Okay.
What are some of the common mistakes?
Right. The things to avoid.
Yeah. What are the big no-nos in resume writing?
So one of the first things I would say is avoid generic objective statements.
Yeah.
Those phrases like seeking a challenging position with opportunities for growth.
Right.
They're so vague.
They are.
They don't tell the employer anything specific about what you're looking for.
Or what you can bring to the table.
Exactly. And what's more important is what you can bring to their table.
Right.
So instead of that old-fashioned objective statement, consider a compelling professional summary.
Okay.
This is a concise snapshot of your key skills, your relevant experience, and your career aspirations, all tailored to the specific role you're applying for.
Right. So it's like a mini pitch.
Yeah. It's a quick way to grab their attention and say, hey, this is what I'm all about.
I love that.
And another absolutely critical don't is exaggeration or even worse, fabrication.
Yeah.
With background checks becoming so common, any dishonesty on your resume can really backfire.
It can cost you the job.
Yeah, it can even lead to a job offer being rescinded.
It's just not worth it.
It's not worth it.
Be honest. Be authentic.
Absolutely focus on presenting your genuine experiences in the best possible light.
In a positive light.
Yeah.
And speaking of presentation, what about formatting? Are there any choices people should stay away from?
Definitely.
Yeah.
While it might be tempting to get creative with the visuals, avoid using really ornate or difficult to read fonts.
Yeah.
Stick to professional, clean, widely recognized fonts like Arial, Calibri, Times New Roman.
Yeah, you want it to be easy to read.
Exactly. The focus should be on the clarity of your content.
On the substance.
Right, not on trying to decipher some crazy font.
And what about personal information? Are there things that people should just leave off their resume?
Yeah, so definitely avoid including things like your age, your religion, your marital status, personal photographs. This information, it's not relevant to your professional qualifications, and in some cases, it could even introduce unconscious bias into the hiring process.
Yeah, you want to keep the focus on your skills and your experience.
Right.
And how those relate to the job.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the structure of the resume.
Okay.
What are the main frameworks that someone might come across?
So there are a few main approaches. The most common one is the chronological resume. This is where you list your work experience in reverse chronological order.
So most recent job first.
Exactly. And this format is really good for people who have a steady career path.
Right.
It shows that upward trajectory.
Yeah.
But what about people who are maybe switching careers or have some gaps in their employment history?
Right, because the chronological resume might not be the best choice for them.
Yeah, in those cases, a functional resume can be a really good alternative.
Okay.
So instead of focusing on the timeline of your jobs, it emphasizes your skills and abilities.
Okay.
And groups them into relevant categories.
So it's more about what you can do than where you've done it.
Exactly. And this can be really helpful for highlighting transferable skills when you're moving into a new field or if you want to downplay employment gaps.
It takes the focus off the dates.
Exactly.
And then there's the hybrid resume.
Right.
Which sounds like it combines the best of both worlds.
It does. It's a blend of chronological and functional elements.
So you can highlight your skills.
Yeah.
And also show your work history.
Yeah. So you might lead with a strong skills section.
Okay.
And then follow it with a concise chronological work history just to provide some context and show where you gain those skills.
And then before we move on, I think it's important to clarify the difference between a resume and a CV.
Yeah.
Because those terms are sometimes used interchangeably.
Right.
But they're not always the same thing.
They're not.
So can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So a curriculum vitae, or a CV, is a much more comprehensive document than a resume.
Okay.
It's often several pages long.
Wow.
And it's typically used in academia and research,
Okay.
as well as in some international job markets. So a CV is a very detailed overview of your entire academic and professional history.
It's like everything.
Yeah, it includes things like publications, presentations, research projects.
It's the whole shebang.
It's the whole story.
So once someone has chosen a framework, what are some general formatting tips that they should keep in mind?
So I would say, above all else, prioritize readability.
Okay.
Use bullet points
Yes.
to break up big chunks of text.
Make it easy to scan.
Exactly. Recruiters are busy. They're looking at a lot of resumes.
Yeah.
So you want to make it easy for them to find the information they need.
And what about margins?
Stick to consistent 1-inch margins on all sides.
Okay.
It just creates a nice, clean, professional look.
And font size.
Yeah, so for the body text, I would recommend 11 or 12-point font.
Okay.
And for headings, you can go a little bit bigger, maybe 14 or 16-point,
Okay.
just to create that visual hierarchy.
So that the headings stand out.
Exactly.
And bold and italics.
Use them sparingly,
Right.
just to highlight key information.
So don't go overboard.
Right. Too much emphasis can actually be distracting.
It can?
And in terms of color,
Yeah.
stick to black text on a white background.
Classic.
Yeah, it's the most professional and the most readable.
So, okay, you've got your framework, you've got your formatting.
Right.
But we talked earlier about how important it is to tailor your resume.
Yeah.
So what are the actual steps someone should take to do that?
So the first step is to really analyze the job description.
Right.
Like, break it down, identify the skills, the qualifications, the responsibilities that they're looking for.
So really understand what they're asking for.
Yeah, and pay attention to the specific keywords and phrases they use.
Because those are the things that they're going to be looking for when they're screening resumes.
Exactly.
So it's almost like they're giving you a cheat sheet
They are.
of what they want to see.
Yeah, they're telling you what's important to them.
So once you've done that,
Then you look at your own experience.
yeah.
And you identify specific examples that show you have those skills.
So it's not just about saying, oh, yeah, I have this skill.
Right.
It's about showing how you've used that skill.
Exactly. And it's about showing how you've used that skill to achieve results.
Right. And this is where those keywords become so important.
Yeah, because a lot of companies use applicant tracking systems, or ATS, to scan resumes.
Right.
So if you're not using those keywords, your resume might not even get seen by a human.
Exactly. So you need to sprinkle those keywords throughout your resume.
But not just randomly.
Yeah.
You have to use them in a natural way.
Yeah, you have to show that you actually possess those skills.
Right.
And that you've used them in a meaningful way.
It's about demonstrating your expertise.
Exactly.
And remember, a generic resume just won't cut it anymore.
No.
You really have to tailor it for each specific job
Absolutely.
and show the employer why you are the perfect fit.
Yeah, you need to stand out.
You do.
And the best way to do that is to make your resume as relevant as possible to their needs.
So let's talk about the digital age.
Okay.
You know, resumes and job searching have changed so much.
Yeah. The internet has revolutionized the whole process.
It really has.
So now we have all these online resume builders.
Yeah.
Like Zeddy, Canva, Novoresume.
And they offer these professionally designed templates
Okay.
and tools to create visually appealing resumes that are optimized for digital viewing.
Which is so important because people are looking at resumes on their phones, on their computers.
Exactly. It's not just a piece of paper anymore.
And then, of course, there's LinkedIn.
Yes.
Which is like the essential networking platform for professionals now.
Absolutely.
And it's almost like your online resume.
It is.
So optimizing your LinkedIn profile is crucial.
It is.
You need to have a professional photo,
Yeah.
a strong headline, a keyword-rich summary.
All of those things.
Because recruiters are actively searching on LinkedIn
They are.
for candidates.
And for certain fields, like creative fields or tech fields, Having a personal website or an online portfolio can be a huge advantage.
Yeah, it's a way to showcase your work
Yeah,
in a way that you can't do on a traditional resume.
exactly. You can have visuals, you can have interactive elements.
You can really let your creativity shine.
Yeah.
And then we're also starting to see video resumes,
Right.
which is a really interesting trend,
It is.
especially in media and creative fields.
Yeah, it's a way to make a more dynamic and personal introduction.
Right, you can really show your personality.
Yeah,
But it's important to make sure that the production quality is high.
absolutely.
You don't want to come across as unprofessional.
Right. It needs to be well made.
And then another thing to keep in mind is that recruiters often Google candidates.
Yeah,
So your online presence matters.
it does.
You want to make sure that your social media profiles are clean and professional.
Yeah, you don't want anything out there that could hurt your chances.
Exactly. So let's talk about some of the challenges that people often face when they're putting together their resumes.
Okay.
Like, what are some common obstacles and how can people overcome them?
So one common challenge is employment gaps. You know, people get nervous about having gaps in their work history,
Yeah.
but there are ways to address those gaps.
So how do you do that?
So you can highlight freelance work, consulting projects, volunteering,
Right.
professional development activities like certifications or online courses,
Yeah.
anything that you did during that time that shows that you were still developing your skills.
So it's about reframing it as a time of growth
Exactly.
rather than just a gap.
Yeah.
And what about people who are just starting out
Yeah.
and maybe don't have a lot of work experience?
So for them, it's really important to emphasize their education.
Okay.
You know, highlight relevant coursework,
Mm-hmm.
academic achievements,
Okay.
internships,
Yeah.
co-op experiences,
Yeah.
and any transferable skills they've gained through projects or extracurricular activities.
So even if they haven't had a lot of formal work experience,
Yeah,
they can still showcase their skills
they can.
and their potential.
Exactly.
And what about job hopping?
Yeah.
How can people address that on their resume?
So instead of focusing on the number of jobs you've had, focus on the achievements and skills you acquired in each position.
Okay.
Highlight the positive contributions you made and frame your career progression in terms of gaining diverse experience
Yeah.
and valuable skill sets.
So it's about showing what you learned from
Yeah.
each role
Exactly.
and how that makes you a stronger candidate.
Right.
And for people who are making a career change,
Yeah.
how can they make their resume relevant to a new industry?
So this is where a functional or hybrid resume can be really helpful.
Okay.
You can lead with a strong skills section that highlights your transferable abilities
Right.
and downplay the chronological work history initially.
So you're drawing attention to the skills that
Yeah.
are most relevant to the new job.
Exactly.
And then in your experience section, you can focus on those transferable responsibilities and accomplishments.
Right.
And for those new grads,
Yeah.
what are some things that they should always include?
Academic projects that show relevant skills.
Okay.
Specific coursework,
Yeah.
certifications. Technical skills.
Yeah.
Extracurricular activities that showcase teamwork, leadership, problem solving.
So even things that aren't directly work related
Yeah.
can still be valuable
Absolutely.
because they show your personality and your character.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here
We have.
before someone hits that submit button.
Yeah.
What's the final checklist they should run through?
So here are the key questions to ask yourself.
Okay.
Is your resume free of errors?
Yeah.
Have you proofread it carefully?
Multiple times.
Yeah. And have you had someone else look at it?
Yes, a fresh pair of eyes.
Right.
Is the formatting consistent and professional?
Yeah. Are the headings clear? Are the bullet points aligned? Is the font consistent throughout?
Have you tailored it to the specific job
Absolutely.
that you're applying for?
Yeah.
Are the keywords there?
Right, for those ATS systems.
And have you saved it as a PDF
Yes. That's so important.
to preserve the formatting?
Yeah.
And you said one last thing.
Yeah, get feedback from someone you trust. A mentor, a career counselor, someone in your field.
Yeah.
They can offer valuable insights.
They can see things that you might have missed.
Exactly.
So to sum it all up,
Yeah.
a well-crafted and tailored resume
Absolutely.
is essential in today's job market.
It is. It's your first impression.
Or introduction.
Yeah, it's your ticket to getting that interview.
And as a final thought for our listeners,
Yeah.
I want to encourage you to think of your resume as a living document.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that you just update when you're looking for a job.
Right.
It's something that you should be continuously updating and refining,
Yeah,
even when you're happily employed,
absolutely.
because you never know when an opportunity might arise.
Right.
And you want to be prepared.
You do. And it's also a good way to keep track of your accomplishments.
Yeah.
And your professional growth.
So treat it like a living document that evolves with you
Exactly.
and your career.
That's great advice.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think we covered a lot today.
We did.
This was great.
Yeah, this was fun.
Thanks for joining us,
My pleasure.
and we'll see you next time.
Sounds good.